Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Urdu Seekhiye. This is part 2 of episode 33. Today I'll tell you a bit more about my experience on the motorcycle tour to the northern parts of Pakistan. This time around, I'm going to speak in both Urdu and English, so those trying to learn Urdu can benefit also. Be sure to visit the page for episode 33 so you can download the transcript and follow along. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use the discussion board or email me your questions. I'll start off with a lighthearted topic, something most all human beings love, and that's food. I don't consider myself a foodie, so this is high praise coming from someone like me. But if you do love food, then this motorcycle tour is definitely for you. Or rather, the country of Pakistan is for you. Or maybe Pakistani food is for you. आपको पाकिस्तानी खाना ज़बरदस्त लगेगा. सोचिए ज़रा, आप हर खाने के वक्त एक नई जगह पर रुकें और ज़बरदस्त लोग मौजूद हों. और हाँ, चाय ज़रूर हो. बहुत सारी जगहें जहाँ हम रुके, हमें पहले से ही पता था कि हम वहाँ रुकेंगे. हमारे टूर गाइड्स अक्सर हमें पहले से ही उन जगहों के बारे में दिलचस्प बातें बताते थे. लेकिन काफ़ी जगहें ऐसी भी थीं जहाँ उन्होंने भी नहीं खाया था, मगर वहाँ पर भी हमें खाना लजीज लगा. And more often than not, we either began our meal with chai or ended it with it. I am a huge fan of chai. When I first came back from the tour, I was drinking it every day. But nowadays, I've gone back to having chai toast only over the weekend. Though I remember being amazed with the food, enough time has passed that I can't remember the names of the dishes. But I do remember the halwa puri breakfast we had on the last morning together. ये ऐसा किस्म का नाश्ता है जो आप रोज़ाना नहीं खा सकते या रोज़ाना नहीं खाना चाहिए. लेकिन ख़ास तौर पे अगर आप पाकिस्तान में हैं तो आपको ज़रूर हलवा पूरी खानी चाहिए. बल्कि आप दुनिया में कहीं पे भी हों, अगर आपके नज़दीक पाकिस्तानी रेस्टोरेंट है तो आपको मालूम करना चाहिए कि उनके पास हलवा पूरी है या नहीं. मैं वर्जीनिया में रहती हूँ, लेकिन क्योंकि मैं फूडी नहीं हूँ और मैं इस किस्म का नाश्ता अक्सर नहीं खाती, तो मेरे जहन में सिर्फ एक ही रेस्टोरेंट आ रहा है. उसका नाम है शाइनीज़ और वहाँ पे हलवा पूरी मिलती है. So we were in Pakistan for 15 days, and each day we had 3 meals. That's 45 different meals at a different location each time. And as we moved north from Islamabad, the dishes tasted different. Less spicy, but not less flavorful. It really was a lot of fun. Anticipation ran through us all as we rode our motorcycles to the next destination, looking forward to what would be served to us at the next mealtime. Also, taking a break after a long ride is just the thing you need in that moment. I also very much enjoyed the company of everyone in the group. It was a time to listen to stories, which I love doing. There were a few days where Alex joined us, and she knew of the food that was coming. She happened to join us when we were staying at this woman's house. She was the first in her area to open up her home to foreigners. Quite the entrepreneur. I remember that the breakfast we had in her home was among my favorite, and I'm pretty sure she made it. It was also in her home that everyone sat under the stars around a fire. उस रात मेरी तबीयत ठीक नहीं थी. वैसे तो काफ़ी रातें ऐसी थी जब मेरी तबीयत ठीक नहीं थी, लेकिन इसके बारे में मैं आपको बाद में बताऊंगी. अगले दिन या शायद पिछले दिन हम किसी होटल में ठहरे थे. नज़ारा बहुत ही खूबसूरत और हरा भरा था. हमें उनके नाश्ते के बारे में बताया गया था. बहुत ही तारीफ सुनी थी और जब हमने खाया, बेशक ज़बरदस्त था. I think more than the taste, I was impressed by the presentation. There were these rolls with like a spongy bread with eggs in the center. We also had a crepe-like thing and homemade jam to spread on it. Even though I had a cough, I'm pretty sure I tried it anyway. And it was definitely worth it. By the way, when I got home, I went to the doctor and she told me that I had been suffering from acid reflux. Basically, the acid would reach my throat in the middle of the night and wreak havoc. I'm finally now getting around to treating it properly. It's also why my voice is kind of hoarse. Anywho, so I had to text Alex to ask her what the place was called, and she let me know. Thanks, Alex. So the place where we stayed is called Osho Tung, and it's in a town called Minapin. This was one of the 2 nights that Alex and Sana met up with us. Though I wouldn't change a thing, reflecting back on the journey, we did miss out on the knowledge that Alex and Sana have just from the sheer fact that they've done these tours repeatedly. We would have heard so many more stories about their previous experiences and historical facts they've accumulated by visiting all the places we went to. For example, when we got to Oshotung, Alex told us about the trees there. Alex कह रही थी कि उन दरख्तों में चेरीज लगती हैं, लेकिन जब हम पहुंचे तो उस वक्त बहुत ठंड थी, तो दरख्तों पर कोई चेरीज नहीं थी. एलेक्स हमें बता रही थी कि उन्होंने पिछले साल कुछ ज़्यादा ही चेरीज खा ली, जिससे उनका बुरा हाल हुआ था. Speaking of बुरा हाल, and this might put you at ease if you are considering traveling to Islamabad, every time I've traveled to Pakistan previously, I've vomited, but this time around, I didn't. Maybe it's Karachi that upsets my stomach, but the northern parts are okay? Or my body is now used to Karachi, and after you get used to a place like Karachi, you can tolerate any other place. At least in Pakistan. वैसे तो मैंने कहा था कि मैं फूडी नहीं हूँ. ये मुकम्मल सच नहीं है. मुझे मीठा बेहद पसंद है. मेरी पसंदीदा मिठाई गुलाब जामुन है, लेकिन आजकल मैं मिठाई कम खा रही हूँ. चीनी कम कर दी है. हमने किस्त 24 में मिठाई के बारे में बात की थी. अगर आपको मिठाई की तस्वीरें देखनी हैं, तो आप उर्दू सीखिए की वेबसाइट पर जाएं और किस्त 24 पर क्लिक करें. Okay, so I think that's all for the lighthearted topic. Let's make our way to not so lighthearted territory. As I was thinking about what I might share in this episode, I became sad because I couldn't recall everything that I had initially planned to talk about. The memories, the details are slowly fading. Yet I'm a little surprised by how much I miss Pakistan. It's probably due to a lot of things, but also because I often glance at the photos that we all took. And more recently, the amazing professional photographer Joshua Cripps, who happened to be a part of the motorcycle tour, released his videos on his YouTube channel. The channel is called The Nature Photography Collective, and he'll be releasing a few more videos about our time in Pakistan. So while you can only hear my perspective, if you go to his channel, you can both hear and see his perspective as you watch absolutely breathtaking scenery from our time in Pakistan. He brought all sorts of photography equipment with him, so I highly encourage you check that out. Also, he'll be returning to Pakistan next year with a focus on photography, so I'd recommend you subscribe to his channel. Let him know that Urdu Sikhiye sent you. शायद बेहतर ही है कि मैं उन दिनों को आहिस्ता आहिस्ता भूलती जा रही हूँ. मुझे सारी चीज़ों के बारे में बात करनी थी और उसमें बहुत ही ज़्यादा वक्त लग जाता. मुझे हर दिलचस्प गुफ्तगू के बारे में बताना था. लेकिन चलो, बहुत कुछ भूलने के बावजूद बहुत कुछ बताने को है. जैसे मैंने पार्ट 1 में बताया था, मैं अक्सर उन चीज़ों को सुनती हूँ जो विजडम के बारे में हों. I'm not sure how to say wisdom in Urdu, but my friend Naima says you can use दानिशमंदी की बातें या जिंदगी के फलसफे की बातें. दानिशमंदी की बातें या जिंदगी के फलसफे की बातें, meaning talks about the philosophy of life. To say wise, I think that would be danishmand. So talks about wisdom would be danishmandi ki batein. There's one such talk by William Irvine on the topic of Stoicism. It's titled, You Are Living the Dream Life. In it, he talks about how if we're fortunate enough to have the technology to listen to podcasts or wisdom-focused talks, then we're more than likely living the dream life. Essentially, the point he's making is that we're living a life that so many people, less fortunate than us, are dreaming of. Billions of people would love to have our lives, and yet, quite often, we are dreaming of having someone else's life. He then goes on to compare various lives, which is exactly what Benjamin does. He's the owner of the black truck I sometimes rode in. By the way, if you get tired of riding your motorcycle, you always have the option to take a break and be the passenger in a backup truck. They bring along an extra rider. In our case, that was Shehzad. The fact that they offered this perk was the second biggest reason I chose Lost with Purpose for the tour. But returning to Irvine's talk, in it, he says that psychologists refer to the point of reference we use in making comparisons as an anchor. The Stoics knew that although we have limited control over the challenges life presents us with, we have considerable control over the anchors we use in our assessment of daily events. So let me explain. If, as an anchor, I focus on someone that appears often in my Instagram feed, let's say, and I know she is wealthy, maybe I tell myself, I wish I could travel as much as she does, or I wish I lived in a house like hers. Then, of course, I'm focused on what I don't have. But instead, if I make my anchor someone who doesn't have nearly as much as I do, then there is no gap. There is nothing to want. And that's exactly what Benjamin does. In fact, I think his anchor may have been King Henry VIII. He was so proud to explain this philosophy to me, as he should be. He was like, Shireen, tell me, did that king ever drive such a car? Was he able to call his loved ones whenever he wanted? He didn't even have a toilet that flushes. I live better than the kings have lived. Isn't that amazing? When I first heard the talk, it was not nearly as impactful as hearing someone who actually practices it. So yeah, that was a really cool conversation. And to hear it from someone who I consider to be, quote unquote, less fortunate than me was even more powerful. Someone like me has no excuse not to use such a useful strategy. Of course, it's not easy being surrounded by all this consumerism on social media and such, but with enough practice, it is doable. Speaking of wisdom, I'm reminded of one other anecdote. हम एक जगह खाने के लिए रुके थे और शहजाद, हमारे मैकेनिक, सबको इंस्टाग्राम या टिकटॉक पर कोई पोस्ट दिखा रहे थे. उस पोस्ट में शहजाद रुबाब बजा रहे थे, एक खूबसूरत तारदार साज. ChatGPT tells me that तारदार साज means stringed instrument. That's what Shehzad appeared to be playing in that post. और मैंने उनकी पूरी गुफ्तगू नहीं सुनी, या शायद मैं आसानी से लोगों की बातों में आ जाती हूँ. इसीलिए मैंने यकीन कर लिया कि वाकई शहजाद ही रुबाब बजा रहे थे. वो सब मुझ पर हंसने लगे. जब मैंने पूछा, क्यों हंस रहे हो? तो उन्होंने कहा, शहजाद को रुबाब बजाना नहीं आता. तो मैंने कहा, आपने मुझे उल्लू बनाया. Literally, आपने मुझे उल्लू बनाया means you made me an owl, or you made an owl out of me. But ullu, the word for owl in Urdu, also means fool. And Farouk, one of the members of our group, pointed out how in the Western world, the owl symbolizes wisdom, while in the Urdu language, it's used to mean fool. I found that so interesting and was a bit surprised that I hadn't ever before given it a thought. So yeah, the next time you want to say to someone, I fooled you, you'd say, मैंने तुम्हें उल्लू बनाया. मैंने तुम्हें उल्लू बनाया. If you'd like me to elaborate on this phrase, be sure to go to the Urdu CK website for episode number 33 and leave a comment there. So in part 1, I spoke of my lack of experience on a motorcycle, but I didn't necessarily speak of how much fear and discomfort I went in with. And that was compounded by learning that Alex, the woman who was supposed to lead the tour, who inspired me to learn how to ride a motorcycle in the first place, was no longer going to join us. So I was the only woman in this group of 8. Of course I was angry, but I did my best not to act with that emotion present. Eventually, a day or 2 later, I talked to Alex and she assured me that the guides I would be traveling with were good friends of hers and trustworthy. और क्योंकि मैं टूर के पैसे दे चुकी थी, फ्लाइट्स का इंतज़ाम कर लिया था और छुट्टी भी ले ली थी, मैंने उनकी बात का भरोसा करके जाने का फैसला किया. Alright, so for now, this is where I'll pause. As I said before, there is a lot to tell, so please do join me in part 3. For now, Khudafis.